Guiyang, the underbelly of the cool city and big data capital. Did you know that Guiyang, the capital of China's Guizhou province, often lauded as the ideal cool city for summer tourism and a rising big data technology hub, harbors unexpected hidden corners? It's a city of stark contrasts, where glittering skyscrapers and modern data centers soar right next to precarious lives in makeshift settlements. A place where the dream of urbanization and miraculous development sometimes comes at the cost of inequality and unimaginable living conditions. And let's not forget, behind the impressive growth figures are stories of displacement, of the struggle for the right to live and work with dignity. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Do you want to explore more of the stark realities, the issues simmering beneath the glamorous facade? Join us as we pull back the curtain and delve into 10 lesser-known aspects of Guiyang in today's special report. 1. Paradise on Earth or Hell on Earth? Squalid living conditions and deep social inequality. Guiyang, with its charming nicknames Lincheng, Forest City, or Cool City, often appears to tourists with its lush green parks, pleasant climate, and modern architectural marvels. But step off the wide avenues, turn into the deep, narrow alleys, and a different, hauntingly parallel reality emerges. Imagine dilapidated houses, crammed together like matchboxes, where sunlight is a luxury. Damp, peeling walls and makeshift tin roofs offer little protection from the elements. Clean water is scarce, sanitation systems are virtually non-existent, garbage piles up, and an overpowering stench fills the air. This isn't a scene from a post-apocalyptic movie, but the daily life of thousands, even tens of thousands, right in the heart of a city boasting of its rapid development. A shocking video that went viral on YouTube in 2024, reportedly filmed in a Guiyang slum, starkly exposed the living environment of the lower class. Images of children playing amidst piles of trash, frail elderly cowering in cramped, dark rooms, and meager meals cooked over makeshift stoves caused an uproar in the online community. The heart-wrenching contrast between modern high-rises, symbols of wealth and progress, and these rickety slums, where human dignity is eroded daily, is a painful scar on Guiyang's urban face. Social inequality here isn't just about material conditions. It's about the disparity in opportunities, in having a voice, in the right to enjoy the fruits of development. While one segment of the population enjoys a comfortable, modern life, another is left behind, trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty and despair. Is it truly cool when the heat of injustice continues to smolder and burn the lives of so many? This question, perhaps, needs more than one answer from policymakers. 2. Second-class citizens, the invisible burden of the hukou system and the tragedy of migration. Behind the dizzying development of Guiyang, like many other major Chinese cities, is a massive influx of migrants from impoverished rural areas seeking to change their fortunes. They are the construction workers who build the skyscrapers, the factory workers, the street vendors. They contribute their sweat and labor to the city's prosperity but are often treated as second-class citizens. The biggest barrier is the household registration system, or hukou. The hukou system essentially ties people to their birthplace. Migrant workers, even those who have lived and worked in Guiyang for decades, still hold rural hukou. This means they and their children face restrictions, or are even denied, access to basic social services like quality public education, community healthcare, and other social welfare benefits enjoyed by those with urban hukou. Imagine the children of these migrant workers, born and raised in Guiyang, speaking the local dialect, considering Guiyang their home, yet unable to attend good local schools simply because of their parents' hukou. They must attend makeshift, low-quality private schools or, worse, are sent back to their hometowns to be cared for by grandparents, becoming left-behind children. The pain of family separation, emotional deprivation, and educational injustice deeply scars their childhood, creating a generation تحمل جروحاً يصعب شفاؤها. Stories of families torn apart by hukou are not uncommon. The wife stays in the countryside caring for young children and elderly parents, while the husband toils alone in the city, sending money home. Brief reunions during holidays cannot compensate for the emotional and responsible voids. The hukou system, though ostensibly aimed at controlling population and ensuring social order, has inadvertently created a class of peripheral citizens, who build the city but don't truly belong to it. They are like lingering phantoms in the urban landscape, contributing to its splendor but not sharing fairly in its rewards. This inequality, if unaddressed, will be a potential seed of social instability. Do you think a truly smart city should find ways to remove these invisible barriers? Let us know your thoughts. 3. Tears behind the jackhammers, slum demolition and the burden of forced resettlement. In the whirlwind of Guiyang's ambitious urbanization and urban redevelopment projects, dilapidated houses and makeshift slums are often seen as thorns in the side, needing to be eradicated to make way for new, modern residential areas and bustling commercial centers. But behind these grand urban facelift plans are the tears, pain, and resentment of people forced to leave their homes. Demolition and resettlement are inevitable parts of development. However, the methods and consequences in many places, including Guiyang, often spark fierce controversy. Unfeeling jackhammers can level a neighborhood in moments, but they cannot erase memories, neighborly bonds, or the livelihoods of people who have been connected to that place for generations. Stories of residents being abruptly notified of eviction, without enough time to prepare, are not rare. Compensation is often deemed inadequate, insufficient for them to find comparable new housing, especially in central areas with high land prices. Many are pushed to remote, isolated resettlement areas lacking infrastructure, losing their familiar livelihoods and long-established social networks. Imagine an elderly family, having lived their whole lives in a small, albeit dilapidated, house that is all they have, suddenly receiving an eviction order. Where will they go? How will they survive in a strange new place? These questions often go unanswered satisfactorily by authorities or project developers. Peaceful protests and demonstrations by residents are sometimes ignored, even suppressed. Those who dare to speak up for their legitimate rights may be harassed or intimidated. This isn't just a material loss. It's also an emotional trauma, a feeling of being treated unjustly, of being deprived of the right to live peacefully on one's own land. While the city dons a splendid new guise, somewhere, people are silently weeping for their old homes, for their upended lives. Is development truly sustainable when it's built on the tears and desperation of a segment of the population? 4. The two faces of Kool Gang, the painful contrast between rapid development and persistent poverty. Guiyang prides itself on the title, Kool Gang, a cool, clean city ideal for tourism and relaxation. Simultaneously, it's transforming into China's Data Valley, with numerous massive infrastructure projects and data centers for tech giants like Apple, Huawei, and Tencent springing up like mushrooms. Modern skyscrapers, magnificent viaducts, and wide expressways testify to its rapid development. But step back a little, look closer, and you'll see a different Guiyang, a face of painful contrast. Right next to the glamorous new urban areas and brightly lit high-tech zones are slums and impoverished working-class neighborhoods where life remains incredibly difficult. This contrast isn't just architectural, it's about living standards, opportunities, and futures. Shocking images sometimes surface on social media. On one side, a luxury 5-star hotel, on the other, a row of squalid rental shacks. On one side, expensive cars glide by, on the other, hawkers trudge with heavy loads on their shoulders. This isn't staged, it's the harsh reality of an ever-widening rich-poor divide. Rapid economic development has brought prosperity to a segment of the population but seems to have forgotten or even worsened the plight of the vulnerable. Migrant workers and indigenous people who lost their land to development projects are often the hardest hit. They don't benefit commensurately from the growth and are sometimes pushed to the margins of society. The question is Kool Gang truly cool for everyone? Is that Data Valley generating data on increasing inequality? Development is only truly meaningful when it brings a better life for everyone, not just a minority. Otherwise, skyscrapers, no matter how tall, cannot conceal the dark patches of poverty and injustice at their feet. 5. When the green city is polluted, environmental woes in makeshift settlements. Guiyang is fondly called lynching, forest city, due to its high forest coverage and efforts to build an environmentally friendly image. However, this green picture doesn't seem to extend to all corners of the city, especially in informal settlements and slums. In these places, environmental pollution is often at alarming levels. Waste collection and disposal systems are virtually non-existent or function poorly. Domestic waste piles up in large mounds, emitting foul odors and attracting swarms of flies, becoming breeding grounds for diseases. Untreated domestic sewage overflows into open drains, seeping into the ground and nearby surface water sources, causing severe pollution. Imagine children playing next to blackish, foul-smelling streams, or families living with the stench of garbage year-round. These poor sanitary conditions not only reduce the quality of life but are also a direct threat to residents' health, especially the elderly and children, who are most vulnerable. Respiratory, digestive, and skin diseases become common. Sometimes, severe pollution incidents can occur, attracting public attention. A video capturing black sewage flooding a residential area after heavy rain, or images of a small canal turned into a giant garbage dump, can quickly spread on social media, causing outrage and concern. While the city government invests billions of yuan in smart city and green city projects, improving environmental sanitation in the poorest areas seems to be insufficiently prioritized. Can a city truly be green and smart while islands of pollution exist within it, where residents face daily health risks due to unsafe living environments? Cleanliness and environmental safety should be basic rights for everyone, regardless of wealth or social status. 6. Sweat and tears beneath monumental works, migrant labor and harsh working conditions. The skyscrapers, modern bridges, and high-speed rail lines transforming Guiyang's face don't appear out of thin air. They are built with the sweat, and sometimes the blood and tears, of tens of thousands of migrant laborers. They come from impoverished rural areas, hoping for a better life, but often face extremely harsh and risky working conditions. Imagine enormous construction sites, where machinery roars around the clock. Workers, often stripped to the waist, toil relentlessly under the scorching summer sun or in the bone-chilling winter cold. They climb towering scaffolding, carry heavy materials, and face the ever-lurking danger of work accidents. Many live in cramped, makeshift dormitories lacking basic amenities, often located near construction sites. Stories of workers being owed wages, exploited, or not provided with adequate safety gear are not uncommon. Workplace safety is often downplayed to cut costs and expedite progress. When accidents happen, claiming compensation and medical assistance is incredibly difficult, especially for workers without clear contracts or legal literacy. Video clips showing workers in dangerous conditions, or posts accusing contractors of abuse and exploitation, can cause a wave of outrage if they appear on social media. But then, things quiet down, and the harsh cycle continues. These migrant workers are the unsung heroes, contributing significantly to Guiyang's development. Yet, they are often treated as invisible, their rights unprotected. A developed city is built not just on reinforced concrete, but also on respect and fair treatment for those who created it. How many of us, when admiring the beauty of a new bridge or building, pause to think about the hands that built them, and what their lives are like? 7. Potential hotbed of disease, public health risks from slums. The squalid living conditions and poor environmental sanitation in Guiyang's slums not only affect quality of life but also pose serious public health risks. These areas, with high population density, lack of clean water, and inadequate drainage and waste disposal systems, can become hotbeds for infectious diseases. Imagine cramped, damp rooms where dozens share a single makeshift toilet. Unsanitary domestic water. Piled up garbage. This is an ideal environment for the proliferation and spread of pathogenic bacteria and viruses. Diseases like tuberculosis, hepatitis B, cholera, dysentery, dengue fever, and skin diseases risk flaring up and spreading rapidly within the community. Especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, public sensitivity to public health issues has increased. A report, even if unverified, about an outbreak of some disease in a Guiyang slum, could easily cause panic and spread like wildfire on social media. People living in slums, particularly migrant workers without urban hukou, often face difficulties accessing quality healthcare. High medical costs, stigma, and language barriers, for some ethnic minorities, make them reluctant to visit hospitals when sick. This not only affects individual health but also increases the risk of disease spreading to the wider community. The city government may have invested in modern hospitals, but does the preventive healthcare and primary healthcare system reach the most vulnerable populations in these areas? Improving sanitation, providing clean water, and ensuring access to healthcare for all, regardless of wealth, are urgent measures to prevent disease outbreaks and protect public health. A healthy city must start with the health of every citizen, especially the most vulnerable. 8. When desperation speaks, smoldering violence and disputes in urban shadows. The difficult, cramped, and deprived life in Guiyang slums can be fertile ground for social tensions, leading to violence and disputes. The pressure of making a living, inequality, and a feeling of abandonment can accumulate into frustrations that easily erupt into conflict. Imagine small, dark alleys where personal conflicts, land disputes, even over makeshift plots, or neighborly quarrels can quickly escalate into brawls. Domestic violence, fueled by economic and mental stress, may also be more prevalent in these areas but is often hidden and rarely intervened upon. Furthermore, the absence of robust legal institutions and a weak government presence in some peripheral areas can create opportunities for petty crime and the formation of spontaneous gangs, undermining security and order. Residents, especially women and children, may feel insecure walking at night. A shocking event, such as a serious violent incident in the community, a conflict between residents and authorities during site clearance, or the exposure of misconduct or abuse of power by a local official, could become a trigger for widespread discontent. For example, an incident like a doctor accused of assaulting a patient at a hospital in Guiyang, a city not far from Guiyang, if it occurred in the tense context of a Guiyang slum and was caught on video, could easily create a media storm, attracting national attention. These disputes, whether large or small, reflect deeper issues of urban governance, social justice, and the right to live in a safe, healthy environment. When people's voices are not heard, when basic needs are not met, desperation can speak in negative ways. Addressing these root problems requires understanding, dialogue, and truly people-centric policies, not just temporary suppression measures. 9. Glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, touching human stories of resilience and humanity. Amidst the bleak picture of poverty and injustice, there are still touching human stories, glimmers of light showcasing the resilience, kindness, and hope of people in Guiyang slums. These stories, when shared, have a powerful ripple effect, touching the hearts of the community and reminding us of the good values that always exist. Imagine the story of a poor child, living in a dilapidated house, lacking everything, yet still overcoming difficulties to go to school every day, studying diligently with the dream of changing their life. The image of them studying under a dim oil lamp, or their radiant smile upon receiving a certificate of merit, could inspire millions. Or the story of a migrant worker family, finally reunited after years of separation due to the burden of making a living and hukou barriers. The moment they embrace tightly in tears of joy, or their first warm family meal after so long apart, could deeply move the online community. It could also be the story of kind neighbors who, despite their own hardships, are willing to share food and clothing, helping each other in adversity. A group of young volunteers organizing free classes for poor children, or an unsung hero, cleaning a small alley every day. Such stories, though small, carry immense power. They show that even in the harshest circumstances, humanity and the will to rise above never die. Social media platforms like Weibo or Douyin can become channels for spreading these stories, attracting empathy, sharing, and even tangible actions from the community to help those in difficult situations. These stories not only warm readers' hearts but also serve as a reminder that behind the statistics of poverty are real people with dreams, aspirations, and dignity that deserve respect. They also show the great potential of the community to join hands in solving social problems when there is enough empathy and determination. Have you ever known or shared a moving story of extraordinary resilience? 10. A moral stain? When apathy extends even to vulnerable creatures. In a society struggling with issues like inequality, poverty, and developmental pressures, apathy or unethical behavior can sometimes manifest in unexpected ways, even extending to the treatment of animals. An outrageous incident involving animal abuse, if it occurs near slums or in a context where human living conditions are already sensitive, could raise larger questions about the state of social morality. Take, for example, an incident that once caused a public uproar, not necessarily in Guiyang but of a similar nature, a zoo employee accused of pulling a tiger's tail and sitting on its back. A video capturing this scene, if circulated, would undoubtedly cause an extreme wave of outrage on social media. The public would question the cruelty, the lack of professionalism, and the safety of animals in captive facilities. If a similar incident, or another serious act of animal cruelty, e.g., illegal dog and cat slaughterhouses operating openly, or the cruel treatment of animals in makeshift markets, occurs or is exposed in an area already known for its social problems, like Guiyang slums, it could exacerbate feelings of insecurity and resentment in the community. One might infer that if even defenseless, vulnerable creatures are treated so cruelly, are the rights and dignity of vulnerable humans truly valued? Such incidents, though involving animals, can reflect a certain erosion of moral values, an emotional numbness to the suffering of others, or other creatures. It also indicates a lack of supervision and poor management by authorities in enforcing animal welfare regulations and basic ethical standards. Public outrage at animal abuse is a positive sign, showing that social conscience is still alive. However, it is also a warning that, in the pursuit of economic development, humanistic and ethical values must not be neglected. A civilized society is measured not just by its skyscrapers or growth figures, but also by how it treats its most vulnerable members, including animals. What are your thoughts on the connection between how we treat animals and the general moral state of society? We have just journeyed through 10 hidden aspects, 10 potentially uncomfortable truths about Guiyang, a city on a strong development trajectory. Behind the glamorous facade of the cool city and big data capital are human lives and social issues that need to be acknowledged and addressed seriously and humanely. Thank you for joining us in exploring these aspects. We hope this report has given you a more multifaceted, deeper perspective on the challenges that Guiyang, like many other developing cities, faces. Can development be truly sustainable and inclusive if these core issues are not resolved? The answer, perhaps, lies within ourselves and the actions of society. See you in our next programs, where we will continue to unveil truths, however thorny, that are necessary to better understand the world we live in.